Welcome back to the Deep Dive. So good to have you with us.
Great to be here.
Today, we are doing something a little different. Usually we take, a broad topic, a historical event, a tech trend, maybe a biography.
And we drill down.
But today, we're looking at a text, a very, very short text.
7 verses.
7 verses, 7 lines. But before you click away thinking this is going to be, a dry literature class, let me set the context here. If you are a practicing Muslim, or if you've ever been around the Islamic world, you know this text.
So you definitely know it.
It's the opening, Surah Al-Fatiha.
Right. It's the opening chapter of the Quran. It's recited in every single unit of prayer, every single one.
So let's just do some quick back-of-the-napkin math here. You have roughly 2 billion Muslims in the world. If a practicing Muslim prays the 5 daily prayers, they are reciting this specific text at least 17 times a day.
Minimum. And that's not even counting voluntary prayers or just, reciting it casually.
Exactly. So if you multiply that by billions of people, and then you stretch that over 1,400 years of history, we are talking about a text that has been repeated literally trillions of times.
It has to be the most recited collection of words in human history.
It has to be. A sound that has never stopped reverberating on the planet for over a millennium.
Right.
But here's the hook, and this is why we're doing a deep dive on it today. We have a stack of source material here. Lectures, linguistic analyses, historical breakdowns, specifically from a rationalist school of thought.
A very particular lens.
A very particular lens that argues something pretty shocking. It argues that for centuries, the vast majority of people reciting these lines
might be missing the point entirely.
Exactly. Missing the entire point.
It's a bold claim. It's the kind of claim that really makes you sit up and pay attention.
It is a massive claim. The argument in these sources is that over time, these words have been covered in layers of what they call mazhab.
Religion.
Ritual.
Private spirituality.
Right. We recite them as a chant, a kind of spell, maybe a plea for personal favors. But what if you strip all that away?
If you go back to the source code, so to speak.
Yes. If you go back to the root dictionaries of classical Arabic, before the theology solidified, and you look at the socio-political context of the time, you don't find a prayer.
You find a manifesto.
A manifesto, a constitution, essentially.
A constitution for a system of life, or what the source calls deen.
And that right there is the core distinction we're going to explore today, the idea of deen versus religion.
And it changes everything.
We are going to deconstruct these 7 verses, line by line, based on this specific rationalist interpretation. And I have to warn you, and the listener, some of these definitions are going to flip the standard understanding completely on its head.
What defines this analysis is its refusal to look at the text as just a mystical incantation. It treats it as a sociological blueprint.
How so?
Well, the central thesis we're exploring is that this opening moves from the abstract concept of a creator to the very concrete reality of a social order.
A state, really?
A state, yeah. A system designed to ensure no human is enslaved by another.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because usually when people hear scripture or holy text, they think God in the sky.
Right. Clouds, harps, abstract judgment.
But our sources are dragging that concept right down to earth. They're talking about God as the architect of a functioning society. So let's start at the very, very beginning. The phrase almost everyone knows, even if they aren't Muslim or they've just heard it in pop culture.
Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim.
The standard translation we always hear is, in the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful.
It's ubiquitous.
Yeah.
And it's often treated as a blessing.
Right?
You say it before you eat, before you drive, before you start an exam.
It's almost like knocking on wood.
Yeah, but with a theological weight to it. It's like, I'm doing this with God's blessing.
But the source material stops us right there. At the very first letter, the letter ba, it says we are translating this wrong, or at least way too superficially.
Correct. The source argues that the particle ba here isn't just a simple preposition meaning with or in. In the classical context, and in how it's used here, it implies purpose, cause, objective.
Okay, so it's not just, I am saying this name.
No, it is, I am starting this action for the purpose of.
For the purpose of what?
Manifesting the attributes that follow. And this brings us to the word ism, or name.
Which we think of as just a label, a tag.
Right, but the root of ism means a mark or a sign by which something is recognized. The source makes a heavy philosophical point here, which is that the essence of God, the self, That is beyond our comprehension.
Meaning we can't actually know what God is. Our brains are too limited.
Exactly. Our brains are finite. The infinite is beyond us. You cannot know the self of God. You can only know God through his attributes, his sifat.
Can you give an analogy for that?
Sure. Think about gravity. You don't see gravity. You can't touch it. But you know it exists because you see what it does. It pulls the apple from the tree. You know it by its effects.
Okay, so if I'm following this, saying, in the name of, isn't just sticking a divine label on my action.
No.
It's saying, I am acting to bring these specific characteristics, these attributes, into the visible world.
Precisely. It's an active mission statement. It's not passive at all. You aren't just invoking a name. You are committing to a program. And which attributes are we trying to manifest? The text gives us two.
Rahman and Rahim.
Rahman and Rahim.
Grace and mercy. Those are the standard English translations. But again, looking at our notes, the source says these aren't just warm, fuzzy feelings.
No.
It's not, oh, I feel bad for you, so let me be nice.
Not at all. In this linguistic framework, they are developmental programs. Let's look at Rahman first. The source defines Rahman as the attribute of gratuitous provision.
Gratuitous provision, what does that mean in simple terms?
It refers to all the resources provided freely to all of existence without any effort on the receiver's part.
Yeah, like the sun.
The sun is a perfect example. The soil, the oxygen in the air, the raw materials of the earth. Did you work to create the sun? Did humanity earn the atmosphere?
No, it was just there.
Exactly. It was provided freely. That is Rahman. It's the developmental grace that provides the starting capital for life. It's the infrastructure of existence itself.
Okay, so that's the free stuff. What about Rahim?
Rahim is the companion attribute. It's the long-term support system. It's the grace that ensures if you work on those resources, if you use the stuff Rahman gave you, you will get a result.
It guarantees that effort leads to evolution.
That's it. It's the law of returns. Rahman gives you the seed and the soil, and Rahim ensures that if you water it and tend to it, it will actually grow into a tree.
That's a great analogy.
So Rahim is what takes a thing from its starting point to its destination, provided the effort is made.
Okay, let's put that back into the phrase Bismillah. This is not a magic spell.
Not at all.
It's a pledge. It's the reader saying, I am starting this life or I am building this society with the specific goal of establishing a system where resources are provided freely, Raham, and effort is always rewarded, Raham.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It sets the entire trajectory. We aren't just existing, we are developing. We are starting a project to mirror these cosmic laws right here in our human society.
And that leads directly into the first verse proper.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.
Praise be to Allah. That's the translation I've seen 1,000 times. It's on bumper stickers, it's in calligraphy, it's everywhere.
And the source material spent a lot of time on this one word, hamd. It says we absolutely need to distinguish it from other types of praise.
Like what?
Well, in Arabic, you have mad, which is praise, and you have shukr, which is thanks, but hamd is something very different.
Okay, so what's the distinction? Why does it matter?
It matters a lot. You can praise someone to flatter them, right? Even if it's not true. That's mad. Oh, you look fantastic today, even if they look exhausted. That's just flattery. Or you can praise someone for a quality they have absolutely no control over, like praising someone for being tall. They didn't achieve tallness. They just are tall.
Okay, so hamd is different from that.
Very different. The source uses this fantastic analogy to explain it. The peacock.
Oh, I love this example in the notes. This really clarifies things. So walk us through the peacock analogy.
Okay, so you picture a peacock. It spreads its tail feathers. It's stunning. I mean, the iridescence, the patterns, the biological engineering required to create those colors. It's a masterpiece of nature.
It is.
Now, do you give hamd to the peacock?
Well, normally I'd say, wow, what a beautiful bird. You admire it.
You admire it, but you don't actually credit the peacock. Why? Because the peacock had no choice in the matter.
Right. It didn't sit down with a paintbrush.
It didn't sit down and paint its own feathers. It didn't engineer its own genetics. It was created that way. So, strictly speaking, hamd, which is the objective appreciation of a created perfection, belongs to the creator who designed it with conscious intent.
So hamd is the appreciation of a masterpiece, which automatically directs credit back to the artist. You look at the Mona Lisa, you admire the painting, and by doing so, you are honoring Leonardo da Vinci.
Yes. And here's the kicker, and this connects directly to the rationalist approach we're talking about. You cannot do hamd of an abstract idea.
What do you mean?
You can't just close your eyes and do hamd of a void.
Yeah.
You can only appreciate a masterpiece by, well, by studying the masterpiece.
Wait a second. This implies something huge. If Ham requires studying the masterpiece to appreciate the creator,
Then the source argues that the universe, nature, physics, biology, the entire cosmos is that masterpiece.
and therefore.
And therefore, the people who are truly deeply doing Hamd of a god are not necessarily the ones sitting in a corner counting beads or chanting words they don't understand.
So who are they?
They're the scientists. They are the people studying the stars, the geology, the biology. When a physicist looks at the laws of thermodynamics, or an astronomer looks at a nebula, or a biologist decodes a piece of DNA, that moment of awe, that realization of, wow, look at how this works.
Yeah.
That is Hamden.
That is a massive shift. So the scientist is the true praiser because they are actually looking at the artwork.
Exactly. The source even quotes a verse from the Quran that says, "Those who truly fear God are the ulama, the scholars of knowledge." Now, usually people think ulama means religious clerics in robes,
Right.
but the context suggests it means those who study the creation. Because when you see the complexity of an atom or the scale of a galaxy, that observation brings you to a realization of the magnitude of the creator.
So Alhamd is not a chant. It's a scientific attitude. It's looking at the world and acknowledging the design. And that links right to the next phrase, Rabbul Alamin.
Usually translated as Lord of the Worlds.
But Lord has a very feudal connotation, doesn't it? Like a landlord.
It does. And the source says that's not quite right. The root RBB implies a sustainer, a nourisher. Specifically, it's the force that takes a thing from its initial inception through all its stages of growth, all the way to its final perfection.
Yeah, it sounds like an evolutionary term. It sounds like a process.
It is. God is described here as the Rab, the force of evolution and growth, the entity that pushes the universe from a single point to complex life. And Alamin means all worlds, all universes, all nations.
So the opening starts by establishing that the ruling force of the universe is not a static king sitting on a throne demanding flattery.
But a dynamic force of development.
Okay, so let's just pause and recap the framework so far. This is the God concept we were working with. A creator who provides resources, Rahman, who ensures that effort leads to growth, Rahim, and who is the active force of evolution.
Rab, it's a very dynamic, almost scientific definition of divinity. A god of systems, not just a god of whims.
But now the text shifts gears. It moves from the cosmic, the universe, evolution, nature, to the political, to the human.
Verse 4, Malik Yam Adin.
Master of the Day of Judgment. That's the standard reading. Scary day, scales, heaven and hell, that whole thing.
That is the ritualistic translation. And to be clear, the source doesn't deny an afterlife, but it emphasizes that the Quranic vocabulary is relevant to this life too.
So let's break down Malik. King or owner?
Right. But the root, MLK, has a very physical meaning in ancient Arabic. It's related to the word malak.
Malak. I've never heard that word. What is it?
It refers to the mud or the cement that's used to bind bricks together.
Cement. That's really earthy. That's very industrial.
It is. Think about a wall. What makes a pile of bricks into a wall? It's not just stacking them.
It's the mortar, the stuff that holds it together.
It's the force that holds them together.
Yeah.
Malik is the cementing force. Now, apply that to a society. What holds the individuals, the bricks, together to form a nation?
Authority, law, a shared constitution. Without that, you just have a crowd, not a society.
Exactly. Sovereignty. A king is the Malik because his authority cements the society into a single unit. If that authority crumbles, the bricks fall apart and you get anarchy. So God is described as the sovereign authority, the cementing force of the universe.
And then we have Yam Adin. Yam usually means day, like a 24-hour day.
But the source notes that in the Quran, it often means an era or a period, like we say back in the day or the age of the dinosaurs.
Right. And Deen. This is it. This is the pivot point of the whole deep dive.
It is. The source material draws a very hard line here. It says there is a massive fundamental difference between deen and mazhab.
We need to clarify this distinction because to an English speaker, they both just translate as religion.
Right. If you look them up in a standard dictionary, it just says religion. But in this analytical framework, they are almost opposites.
Oh, so.
Mazhab, which corresponds to the Western concept of religion, is a private affair. It's between you and your God. It's your prayers, your fasting, your rituals, your personal beliefs about the afterlife. It's subjective.
Yeah.
You can have your mazhab, I can have mine, and they don't really have to intersect in public life.
Okay, so that's religion. And Deen.
Deen is objective.
Yeah.
Deen is a system. The word implies a collective social order, a constitution, a system of governance and economics. The source argues the Quran is not a book of mazhab. It is a book of deen.
It's not trying to tell you how to meditate. It's trying to tell you how to run a state.
Precisely. So Malik Yalmuddin doesn't just mean king of the spooky day when we all die. It means the sovereign authority over the era of the just system.
The era of the just system.
Yes. It refers to a time or a state where the divine law, those principles of Rahman and Rahim, is fully implemented in the world. It's about creating a society here and now that reflects those attributes.
This is where the source material gets incredibly political. It says that throughout history, Deen, this just social order, has had three main enemies.
A sort of trinity of opposition.
Yes, and this really struck me as a modern analysis, even though it's based on ancient texts.
It is a fascinating sociological breakdown. The source identifies three archetypes that always appear to oppose the divine system. First, you have the pharaoh.
The political tyrant.
Yeah.
The dictator. The one who rules by force.
The one who says, I am the law. I am the state. This represents political oppression. But he doesn't work alone.
No. The second archetype is represented by figures like Qarun, known as Korah in the Bible, or Haman.
These are the capitalists, the oligarchs.
Oh, hoarders of wealth?
The source uses very vivid imagery here. These are the people who hoard the resources provided by Rahman. Remember, Rahman gave the resources freely for everyone, but the Qarun archetype captures those resources and claims them as private property to exploit others.
And the source says they starve the lions.
They starve the lions, the brave, strong masses, until they become docile sheep willing to do anything just for a scrap of bread.
So you've got the capitalist and the tyrant working together. One have the whip, the other has the gold, but there's a third member of this opposition.
And the source argues this one is the most dangerous of all.
The religious priesthood.
The mullah, the priest, the rabbi, the monk.
But why are they the most dangerous? Usually we think of them as the good guys, the moral compass.
Because the tyrant controls your body, and the capitalist controls your stomach, but the priest controlled your mind.
Wow.
The source argues that the priesthood invents mazhab-organized ritualistic religion to act as a narcotic for the people. They tell the masses, don't worry about the tyrant looting you today. Don't worry about the capitalist starving you. If you are patient, and if you just pray these prayers, you'll get a palace in heaven.
That is the classic opium of the masses argument.
It is, but coming from a Quranic scholar. The source explicitly links the mission of prophets like Moses and Jesus to a revolution against this trio. It mentions Jesus standing on the steps of the temple, not debating fine points of theology,
but condemning the Pharisees, the religious scholars, as vipers.
Exactly, because they were gatekeeping the system. They were legitimizing the corruption of the state. The source even references the Gospel of Barnabas, which is a non-canonical text, but interesting for this argument, where the priests are worried that if Jesus succeeds, they will lose their jobs and have to actually work for a living.
So it wasn't about God, it was about their economic status.
The priesthood lives off the mazhab.
So the argument is that Deen comes to smash this entire exploitative structure. It comes to overthrow the pharaoh, redistribute the wealth of Qarun, and expose the deception of the priest.
Yes, and that leads us to the verse that defines a relationship to this new system, Yaka Nabudu.
You alone we worship. That's the standard line.
It is.
But if we're rejecting the religious definition, if we're saying this is a political manifesto, then the word worship doesn't really fit here, does it?
It doesn't.
Worship feels like lighting a candle or singing a hymn.
It doesn't fit at all. The source goes back to the root word amdia. It means a slave or a subject. But the source digs into the etymology of tabid, which is a related term used to describe taming a wild animal.
Taming? Like a horse or a camel?
Exactly. Think about it. When you tame a horse, you aren't crushing its spirit. You're not killing it. You are disciplining its energy so it becomes useful. A wild horse runs aimlessly. A tamed horse has a purpose. It follows the command of the rider.
So ibadat, which is usually translated as worship, isn't about bowing and scraping. It's about channeling your energy.
It's about subservience to the law. And the source makes a critical logical point here.
What's that?
You can worship, pray, chant, meditate under any government. You can pray in Soviet Russia. You can pray in a dictatorship. You can pray in a prison cell. Your private rituals are allowed.
Right.
But ibadat, total obedience to the divine law, can only happen if you are free from other tyrants.
That is a huge distinction. Can you explain that a bit more?
Sure. If the divine law says resources must be distributed openly, but the tyrant's law says resources must be hoarded by the elite, you cannot obey both. It's impossible.
You have to choose.
You have to choose. And if you obey the tyrant, You are not doing ibadat of God, no matter how many prayers you recite. Ibadat is compliance with the system.
So Iyyaka na'budu is a declaration of political independence.
It's a revolutionary pledge.
It's saying, we refuse to be subjects of pharaohs or capitalists. We are subjects only of the divine law. We will only follow your constitution.
Exactly.
This totally redefines shirk or polytheism, too. I always thought shirk was, bowing to a statue or believing in multiple gods like Zeus and Apollo.
That's the ritual definition. The political definition from the source is this. Shirk is acknowledging the right of any human, whether it's a king, a dictator, or even a parliament, to make laws that contradict universal principles.
So, if a parliament passes a law that allows the rich to legally starve the poor, and I obey that law, according to this deep dive, that's polytheism.
Yes, because you are attributing the authority of the Malik, the true sovereign, to a human institution. You are obeying a human law over a divine principle. The source also mentions that obeying your own nafs, your own ego and emotional desires, is a form of shirk. If you do what you want instead of what is right, you have made yourself a god.
It's a constitutional view of the universe.
Yeah.
Nature follows the laws of physics. That's its Islam or its submission. Humans have free will, so we have to choose to submit to the laws of humanity.
And that choice, that voluntary submission to the moral law, is Iyyaka na'budu.
Okay, so then we get to the next part of that verse, Iyyaka nasta'in. From you alone we seek help. Now, usually this is where people ask for a miracle. Oh, God, help me pass this exam, or help me find my keys.
Help my team win the game.
Right. But the source is very firm on this. This is not about magic.
No. The word istiana implies asking for the strength or the resources to maintain balance while you are doing the work.
So it's the cause and effect relationship again.
Exactly. You cannot ask for help to pass an exam if you haven't studied. That violates the law of Rahim evolution through effort. Istiana is asking for the result through the process, not in spite of it.
The source uses a medical analogy here that I thought was very clear.
The patient and the doctor.
Yeah.
If a doctor prescribes you medicine and you take it, who is being helped?
You are the patient.
Right. Taking the medicine doesn't help the doctor. And disobeying only hurts the patient. The source asks, does God need our help, our worship? No. God is Ghani self-sufficient. The entire system of deen is designed for human benefit.
So when we say we ask you for help, we aren't asking God to come down and magically fix it for us.
No, we are saying we are following your laws of cause and effect to achieve the result. Give us the strength to stay on that path.
It's an active partnership with the laws of nature, not a passive plea for supernatural intervention. Help me means provide the resources so I can do the work.
And the universe says back, I already provided them. That's Rahman. Now go do the work. That's Rahim.
This brings us to the final section. We've established the authority, Malik, the constitution, deen, and our citizenship, ibadat. Now we ask for the path, idina sirat al-Mustaqim. Guide us to the straight path.
And immediately the text defines what that path is. It isn't left up to interpretation or your own personal feelings.
It's sirat al-latina anamta alayhim, the path of those upon whom you have bestowed favors.
Right, and this is crucial. In a purely religious context, favored might mean saints, or people who pray a lot, or people who wear certain clothes.
But our source demands concrete evidence. It's a rationalist approach. It says, look at history. Who are the nations that the Quran considers favored?
And it points to the era of Solomon, right?
Yes. The source highlights the rise of Bani Israel under David and Solomon as a prime example. What characterized that society? It wasn't just that they prayed in a big temple.
No, it was 3 specific material things.
Okay, what are they?
1, political freedom. They were no longer slaves to Pharaoh. 2, economic prosperity. They were wealthy, resourceful, successful. And 3, security. They were safe from invasion and dominant in their region.
The source links the word nimat, favor, to a plant? I thought this was beautiful.
Yes, the root NAM, it refers to a plant that grows near water. It's soft, green, flourishing, and tall. So a favored nation is one that is flourishing like a well-watered plant.
So it's not a poor, starving nation of pious people.
Absolutely not. It's a prosperous, strong, successful society.
That clashes so hard with the idea that poverty is somehow holy. You know, the idea that blessed are the poor means you should stay poor.
The source completely rejects that. It argues that poverty, fear, and hunger are punishments, not badges of honor. If a system produces poverty, it is a failed system by definition. It is not a favored system.
Which leads directly to the warning at the end of the surah. We ask not to be on the path of al-Maghdub.
those who earned wrath.
Or Adelan, those who went astray.
Right. Maghdub refers to nations that had the blessings and then lost them. And the force asks, why? How did they lose them?
It cites the parable of the village from another surah, right? An-Nahl.
It does. It describes a village that was safe and satisfied. Its sustenance was coming from everywhere. It was a utopia.
Yeah.
A favored society.
And then what went wrong?
Then they became ungrateful. But ungrateful here doesn't just mean they stopped saying thank you, God. The root word used is kfr, kufr, which means to cover or to hide.
So they started hoarding the blessings, they covered them up?
Exactly. They stopped circulating the wealth. They violated the economic order of Deen. They created a system of haves and have-nots.
And the result of that?
The Quran says, God let them taste the garment of hunger and fear.
That is a terrifying phrase, the garment of hunger and fear.
It is. It implies that hunger and fear are the direct, tangible results of a failed system. They wrap around a society like a piece of clothing. If a society has widespread hunger and fear, it is under wrath. It is living in a hell on earth.
And it doesn't matter how many mosques or churches they build.
It doesn't matter at all. If the people are hungry, the system is under wrath. Full stop.
The source also brings in this beautiful old Arab custom to explain true gratitude. Ibn al-Nimat.
The son of bounty.
What was that?
In ancient Arabia, this was a title for a man who would stand on the rim of a well in the desert. Now you have to imagine the desert context water is life. This man would shout to any travelers, any caravans, inviting them to come and drink freely.
He wouldn't ask for money.
He wouldn't ask for money. He wouldn't ask who they were. He would just share the bounty.
And the source says this is the definition of a favored person. This is true gratitude.
Yes. True gratitude isn't just saying thanks. True gratitude is sharing the resource. If you hoard the water, you are destroying the system. If you share it, you are manifesting Rahman.
This brings the whole conversation to a very modern context. The source material we looked at speaks specifically about the creation of Pakistan. Now, we don't need to get into the weeds of South Asian history, but the concept here is universal.
It is. The source argues that the original vision for Pakistan, which literally means land of the pure, was unique in the 20th century. It wasn't meant to be a theocracy, which is ruled by priests.
And it wasn't meant to be a secular state where religion is private and the economy is capitalist.
No, it was meant to be a laboratory for Deen.
A state where the sovereign authority was the divine law.
Exactly. The goal was to create a society where no one went hungry and no one was oppressed simply because they followed the system of God.
But the source laments that this vision was lost.
It says the vision was lost almost immediately because Deen was converted back into mazhab. They kept the rituals, the prayers, the fasting, the beards, the headscarves. But they kept the British economic system, the feudal land system, the capitalist banking system.
They kept the pharaohs and quoroons in power and just used the priests to justify it all.
And that brings us to the self-deception argument. This hit me hard. This is the real emotional core of this deep dive.
The analogy of the soldier.
Right. Let's paint this picture for everyone. Imagine a soldier in an army. He has a very strict routine. He polishes his boots until they shine. He marches in formation, left, right, left, right. He meticulously cleans his rifle. He salutes his officers. Why does he do all this?
To prepare for battle. The drill is the means. The battle is the end. The discipline is there to make him effective when the real conflict starts.
Exactly. Now, imagine a retired soldier. Or maybe a man who just thinks he's a soldier but has no army.
Yeah.
He goes back to his village. Every single morning, he puts on his old, tattered uniform. He polishes his boots. He marches up and down the main street with a stick instead of a rifle. He does the drills perfectly. He has the best salute in the whole village.
But there is no army. There is no battle. There is no objective.
The source says, that is what our rituals have become. The prayer, the fasting, the pilgrimage, these were drills. They were designed to discipline a community so they could go out and establish the just system against the pharaohs and the capitalists.
But we are just doing the drills in a vacuum.
Exactly. We think the drill is the purpose. We polish the boots and we say, look how shiny my boots are. I am such a good soldier.
While we never fight the battle against poverty, we never fight the battle against oppression.
And the source argues this is worse than useless. It's a distraction. It makes you feel like you're doing something. I prayed 5 times today. I am pious. While the society around you is collapsing into hunger and fear.
It's self-deception.
It's the ultimate self-deception. The source says true hamd and true ibadat are seeing the tangible results. Is the society safe? Is everyone fed? Is justice being served? If the answer is no, then the players aren't working because they are just drills without a mission. You're marching in circles while the village burns down.
That is a devastating critique. It completely reframes the definition of being religious. It's not about how much you pray, it's about what you build.
It shifts the focus from individual salvation, I want to go to heaven, to collective responsibility.
We need to build a heaven on earth.
Yes.
This is a radical synthesis. Let's try to put it all together, because we've covered a lot of ground. The opening, these 7 verses, is not just a prayer. It's a step-by-step manifesto for a revolution.
Let's map it out. Step 1.
Step 1. Hamd. Look at the universe. Use science and reason to recognize the creator as the force of evolution. Rab. Don't just chant. Observe and appreciate the masterpiece.
Step 2. Malik. Acknowledge that this creator is the only sovereign. No human, no king, no dictator, no parliament has the right to enslave another or hoard resources. The only cement holding us together is the divine law.
Step 3. Dean, understand that the goal is to establish a collective social order, a system based on these universal laws, not on private rituals or superstition.
Step 4. Yakanabudu. Commit to total subservience to this constitution. Reject the trinity of opposition, the tyrant, the capitalist, and the priest who protects them. Declare your independence from human slavery.
Step 5. Yakanastein. Seek help by following the law of cause and effect. Use the resources provided, Rahman, and put in the effort, Rahim, to get the result.
Step 6. Surah al-Mustaqim. The result you're aiming for is the path of the favored nations. A society that is politically free, economically prosperous, and scientifically advanced.
And the warning at the end.
If you don't do that, then you are on the path of Maghdub, or Dallin. You live in fear and hunger, you live in confusion and misery, even if you recite this prayer 1,000 times a day.
It really, really changes how you hear those words. Guide us to the straight path isn't show me how to pray. It's show us how to build a civilization that actually works.
Precisely. It turns the text from a plea for personal salvation into a blueprint for collective revolution. It transforms the believer from a passive worshiper into an active revolutionary.
It's heavy stuff. It challenges the comfort zone of just being religious, because being religious in the ritual sense is relatively easy. You just have to follow the rules and do the rituals.
Mazhab is easy. You just follow the ritual. Deen is hard. It demands responsibility. You have to build a just society. You have to confront the pharaohs and the Qurans. You have to share your wealth. You have to study science. It's a complete overhaul of life.
So what does this all mean for us today? Whether you're religious or not, there's a powerful idea here about the difference between form and function.
Yes. We often mistake the symbol for the reality. We polish the boots but forget the battle. We have institutions, democracy, education, religion that are supposed to serve a purpose. But so often we just go through the motions.
And the challenge of this deep dive is to look at our own lives and our own societies and ask if we're doing the same thing. It asks us to look at our allegiances.
Exactly. Are we monotheists in our politics and economics? Or are we obeying laws that create hunger and fear? If we support a system that creates poverty, are we committing shirk polytheism by obeying a human-made law that contradicts the divine law of sustenance?
That is the question. If worship is actually citizenship in a just system, and polytheism is obeying unjust human laws, then how many of us are actually monotheists in our daily political and economic lives?
A provocative thought to end on. It leaves you with a lot to think about the next time you hear a call to prayer, or even just watch the evening news.
Indeed. It forces you to look at ancient texts through the lens of system rather than just ritual, and that changes everything. Thanks for diving deep with us today.
A real pleasure.
See you next time.